Of the Town Planning Committee, I declare the meeting open. I will just let everybody know that there has been some IT issues. All should be okay for those watching and listening in the chambers online. It might be a little bit jumpy, so we apologise for that, and we are working on it as we go throughout the meeting. Thank you. We will commence the meeting with the following reflection. I would ask those gathered to join us now for a few moments of silence as we reflect on our roles in this chamber. Please use this opportunity for reflection, prayer or thought to focus on our shared intention to work respectfully together for the well-being of our whole community. Thank you. The Cardinia Shire Council respectfully acknowledges that we are on the traditional land of the Bunurong and Wurundjeri people and pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. We have received an apology tonight from Councillor Ryan, who is unwell, and we wish Councillor Ryan well very soon. Councillors, are there any declarations of interest? I see none. Thank you. The items on today's agenda are item 5.1, re-subdivision of land, house lot excision. Oh, that was a tricky word, excision. 4915 South Gippsland Highway, Lang Lang. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the Council Officer recommendations, which is a refusal of the permit application.
Thank you. Can I please call for a seconder? Councillor Ross. Thank you. I'll go to the mover to speak, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillors, tonight no alternative motion has been lodged by any councillor. It is our duty to debate and make a decision, and my understanding is that there are two possible outcomes from tonight's meeting. One, that council will either vote to refuse the permit as per the council officer's recommendations, or that council may vote to defer the item for consideration at a later time. In this application, planning permission is sought for a re-subdivision of land to facilitate a house lot excision. Presently, the lot sizes are large, over 40 hectares in size each, and this reflects the agricultural and pastoral land uses. In the proposed re-subdivision, it seeks to create a significantly larger lot at 121.18 hectares. This will be accessible from the South Gippsland Highway, and a second lot, a much smaller lot at 1,891 square metres along the proposed southern boundary with access via Stan Lakes Road. The proposed Lot 2 seeks a small fragmented re-subdivision, and the lot will be surrounded by agricultural use on three boundaries, and that is in stark contrast to a normal residential arrangement. I am concerned that the applicant's proposal doesn't appropriately respond to both the site and the surrounds, because this will be a fragmented subdivision comprising a much larger agricultural lot and a very small rural residential lot, and that this is not orderly or keeping in line with the wider Lang Lang area. And further, the proposed Lot 2 is concluded to be a poor layout based on council officer advice that increases rural residential living within the Green Wedge and the adjacent rural conservation zoning area, leading to potential land use conflicts. The new proposed Lot 2 at 1,891 square metres is in comparison quite diminutive in size and in stark contrast to the presiding lot sizes of the area. As such, the proposal is not considered site responsive and does not achieve key objectives under the Cardinia planning scheme. And another issue, in also considering the overall intent and purpose of the Greenwood zone, the proposed Lot 1 at 121.18 hectares is considerably larger than others, and then this facilitates the potential for an increase in overall lots and dwellings and the re-subdivision of this, which is at odds with the zoning and character of the area. I appreciate the need to protect the integrity of the planning scheme, and the zones and rules in there are in place for a reason. The Green Wedge and the rural conservation setting is an important strategic asset to the Cardinia Shire Council and Victoria and Australia. And I do empathise with the applicant, and I empathise that a smaller residential block in this area is their preference and their intent. I believe that the applicant or their representatives may be here in the gallery this evening, and I do want to acknowledge their attendance. But in the interest of the whole of the Shire, this application doesn't meet the requirements. It is a re-subdivisional proposal that is not orderly planning in accordance with the Cardinia planning scheme. And based on this, I do intend to vote in support of the recommendations of the council officers and refuse this permit. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. I'll go to the seconder. Councillor Ross, please.
I reserve my right to speak. Thank you, Mayor.
No problem. Thank you. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? Councillor Owen.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I support Councillor Davies with what she said. Just a bit of a summary as well. The application was advertised with no objections received. The application was referred to Melbourne Water, AusNet, DECA and Council's Engineering Department, and we do note there was no objections received. But pursuant to clause 35.04-3, a permit may be granted to create smaller lots if any of the following apply. The subdivision is the re-subdivision of existing lots. The number of lots is not increased, and the number of dwellings that the land could be used for does not increase. So the proposal is inconsistent with the subdivision provisions of the Green Wedge Zone, as the number of dwellings that the land could be used for increases. The proposal will create a fragmented subdivision comprising a much larger agricultural lot and a very small rural residential lot surrounded by agriculture on 3 boundaries. Proposed Lot 2 will create a permanent change in land use for the agriculture to residential and is concluded to be a poor layout that increases rural residential living within a Green Wedge zone and adjacent to the rural conservation zoning area. The proposal has potential to create future land use conflicts in the form of amenity issues and right to farm conflict. The residential use of proposed Lot 2 is not compatible with the surrounding land use. No suitable justification has been provided as to the need for the boundary realignment and in essence eliminates the farming viability of one of the 2 lots. Proposal is also inconsistent with the Western Port Green Wedge policy, several state and local policies and the Metropolitan Green Wedge Land Call provision. So I'll be supporting Councillor Davies. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Do we have any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? For or against? I see none, so I'll go back to the seconder. Councillor Ross, thank you.
Nothing further, thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll now go to the mover to sum up, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Ross and Councillor Owen. Councillors, I confirm that I move tonight that support the that council resolves in accordance with the council officer recommendations, which is a refusal of the planning subdivision application as listed in the minutes in the agenda. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. We will now put this to a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Thank you. Item 5.2 T210808 PA, development of the land for 5 dwellings and a reduction in car parking requirements, 10 Cardinia Street, Pakenham. The applicant for this permit has this afternoon lodged a substitute plans for this development that will need to be assessed before this matter is resolved. Therefore, this application will not be considered today. Thank you. Item 5.3, use and development of the land for a dwelling, 550 Scanlon's Drain Road, Cardinia. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the council officer recommendations, which is a refusal of the planning application.
Thank you. Can I please call for a seconder? Councillor Ross. I'll go to the mover to speak first, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Ross. Tonight, no alternative motion has been lodged by any councillor. It is our duty to debate and make a decision tonight, and my understanding is that there are 2 possible outcomes from tonight's meeting: that council either votes to refuse the permit as per the council officer recommendations, or that council votes to defer the item for consideration at a later time. I'd like to acknowledge that the applicant and their planning consultant, who is in the gallery tonight, hello, have contacted councillors advocating for approval of the application. I acknowledge advice received that should council refuse the application, the applicant will refer the matter to VCAT, an independent arbiter, to review the decision, and that is their right. In this application, planning permission is sought for the use and development of the land for a new residential dwelling comprising 4 bedrooms, meals area, families area, lounge, double garage and veranda. The site consists of over 24 hectares of highly productive agricultural land, and there are significant planning controls in place over this land. It is a special use zone protected for agriculture, generally soil-based agriculture, including fruit and vegetable production. An additional proposed dwelling does not support or enhance the agricultural productivity of the land and results in the loss and fragmentation of productive agricultural land. The proposed dwelling is also positioned in proximity to Scanlon Road, and the streetscape may also induce amenity concerns with nearby farming enterprises. Whilst a detailed farm management plan was declined to be provided, it is understood that the owners intend to plant crops for the use of making hay and silage, with the crops used to feed the cattle accommodated on the combined sites. I am informed that the applicant already has a dwelling which could be demolished and a new house built in its place or upgraded. However, the applicant has not requested to do this. In granting residential approval to agricultural land, there are a range of impacts, and one of these is the value of residential approved land is much higher than land only allowed to be used for vegetable growing. And I note that there are some residences already in the special use zone, and I'm very concerned that granting additional residences is not in the best interest of the intent of the zone. There is an ancient Cree Indian proverb, the indigenous people of Northern America, and that comes to mind. When the last tree is cut down, the last fish eaten and the last stream poisoned, you will realise that you cannot eat money. We're humans, we need to grow the food we eat, and this land has legislated protective zoning, of which has been in place for some time with community support and endorsement. I support the assessment made by the council officers as well. I am confident that the application as is does not meet the requirements of Cardinia's planning scheme, and I will not be supporting the application as presented this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. We'll now go to the seconder, Councillor Ross.
I reserve my right again. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item, for or against? I see none, so I'll go back to the seconder, Councillor Ross, please.
Nothing further, thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll go back to the mover to sum up, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillors, I can confirm that tonight I move that council votes as per the council officer recommendations contained within the agenda, that council refuses the application to construct a residential dwelling as listed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. We will now put this to a vote. All those in favour and against? I declare that carried. Thank you. Item 5.4, Planning Scheme Amendment Activity Report. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Kowalczyk.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council note the report.
Thank you. Can I please call for a seconder? Councillor Ross. Thank you. I'll go to the mover first to speak if you like.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Ross. This report just provides an update on the status of active planning scheme amendments and planning scheme amendment requests received to our council. So I think it's pretty self-evident and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to the seconder. Thank you.
Nothing further to add. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? I see none, so I'll go back to the mover. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. As I said at the outset, I note that council, I move that council note this report. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now put this to a vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. Thank you. Item 5.5, Planning Matters dealt with by officers under Delegated Authority, May 2023. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council note the report.
Thank you. May I call for a seconder? Councillor Moore. I'll go to the mover, Councillor Owen, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Moore. I think this is a good report, to make sure that councillors are aware of what other permits are being granted by council. Obviously, only a small number of applications come before this committee. So it's really good for councillors to get, keep their eyes across and abreast these applications that have been approved by delegated authority. So I note the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. I'll go to the seconder, Councillor Moore, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just happy to second my other councillor, and I have nothing to add. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? I see none, so I'll go back to the mover. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The report is actually divvied up by wards, and it's really easy for councillors to see what's happening in their ward and across the whole Shire. And I encourage residents to have a look at this report as well. Sometimes councillors are consulted if it meets certain criteria regarding these applications, but we all get notified when they are received and advertised, and then through this report we get notified which ones are being issued by delegated authority. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. We will now put this to a vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. Thank you. Item 5.6, Planning Matters VCAT report. I'll ask for a mover, Councillor Kowaczyk.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council note the report.
Thank you. Can I please call for seconder? Councillor Davies. Thank you. I'll go to the mover, Councillor Kowaczyk.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Davies, for the second. This report just is a list, really, that's presented to council to keep us abreast of any matters proceeding to VCAT and any of the appeals processes that have happened. So if anyone in the community is interested, and following on from previous town planning meetings, you'll often notice that the addresses that are there are relevant to earlier town planning meetings where council has resolved, or in some cases failed to determine in the relevant time. And you can see matters that are currently the subject of VCAT appeals. So sometimes if you're following along a topic and it's of interest to you, you might find this report interesting. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll go to the seconder, Councillor Davies, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Kowaczyk. Of note, there are 4 matters that are currently the subject of the VCAT appeal, and recently an additional 2 have been lodged. I think of note and most significance to me is that one of the decisions we did make was the notice of decision to grant a permit for a telecommunications facility, and one of the objectors has actually lodged this appeal in VCAT. So it's not always the applicant. It's quite interesting just to review this and understand that we all do have rights to an independent arbiter, but it's also pleasing with the sheer quantity of planning applications and the movement in the Shire that we've only got such a small number that are actually being questioned. So I think that gives me a lot of confidence in the integrity of the planning processes within the organisation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? I see none, so I'll go back to the mover. Councillor Kowaczyk, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Davies, for your comments. Nothing further to add, but I do just want to touch on what Councillor Davies mentioned there and just thank our planning staff. They obviously deal with these issues, have expertise in this, and obviously in some circumstances have to go, excuse me, to represent council in these determinations and provide expert advice. So just want to thank our staff in that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kowaczyk. We will now put this to a vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. Thank you. That concludes tonight's Town Planning Committee meeting, and I do sincerely apologise for those watching online or the recording in the future for the IT issues, and I apologise for any inconvenience that may have caused. Thank you to everyone who has come today to watch in the gallery, and thank you to our general managers for supporting all councillors here tonight. I now declare that meeting closed. Thank you.